Alrighty, good everybody, it's the Dugger! Time for another showcase video. This time, we're featuring the world's favourite rock band. We already did AC/DC, but this time, we're moving on to the Fab Four, this time, the Beatles. My LP collection, which is rather small and modest, unfortunately, but mostly Australian releases, with at least one exception, which we'll get into just right now. We're going to start from the very beginning. And by very beginning, I mean the very first recordings that the Beatles did. That means the Tony Sheridan recordings. Not come across very many copies of this particular album, to be honest. Oops. But it does occasionally show up now and again, even though not all the songs in that album are actually the Beatles themselves. It doesn't. But, you know, these were the first recording sessions they did initially, I believe, with Tony Sheridan in Hamburg, Germany. Alrighty. Now we begin properly with the albums. So Please Please Me, of course. Australian front covers can be identified by the slightly brighter image, different textures, most notably the blue text on the back. This is a late 1970s reissue on a black and orange Parlophone label. I think this is 1978 based on what I've read online. You'll actually find some more info on the Australian Beatles albums in the pinned comment down below, which will take you to a website showing the mostly complete database of all the Australian Beatles releases. And that includes the next one, with the Beatles. Again, Australian front cover. If you didn't know already, the whole union ruling at the time prevented Australian from importing negatives from the UK or wherever. So, of course, this front cover had to be substituted. And we've all heard the story that John Lennon was not impressed with that cover. But it wasn't really changed until the early 80s, I believe. This copy dates to round about 1979 or so, with an identical black and orange label again to the Please Please Me. Personally, I actually like this Australian front cover for With the Beatles. I think it's every bit as good as the proper front cover for it. But if you have different opinions on it, let me know in the comments if you prefer the proper UK sleeve or not. Okay, I don't have every Beatles album, but I do have a good portion of them. We have a pretty beat up copy of A Hard Day's Night. This is probably the earliest and probably the only real original album that I have. This is the only mono Beatles album I have in my collection as well. All the others are pretty much stereo and are pretty much reissues. Black and yellow Parlophone label. As you can see, PCMO 1230. That is the Australian mono catalogue number with the O suffix, presumably for Oceania. I have no idea. Got it cheap due to it being pretty beat up. Haven't seen very many mono copies in a while, really. And we have the Australian version of Beatles for sale, mainly due to the fact that we didn't have the facilities back in the 1960s to create gatefold sleeves. So this was pretty much used in its place. Again, I personally prefer this as well. Photos of the band performing live here in Australia in 1964. Again, this one's a slightly earlier, but similar stereo, orange and black, dated to approximately 1969. Again, according to the website. Be sure to check out the website down below. Alright. Now we move on to a few others. The first Australian compilation album, The Beatles' Greatest Hits. Volume 1. I think that's the same front cover as Beatles 6 from the US. I think this is another 70s reissue of this. But mostly trying to find these 1970s reissues more than the originals, because they're harder to find, more expensive. Plus these don't turn up very often as it is. Okay, now we move on to the Beatles' Greatest Hits, Volume 2. Again, this one doesn't show up very often, and I think this is the only original stereo album that I have. This was actually released on stereo before Volume 1 was released on stereo, you know. That's why it only lists the mono catalogue number there. I think this is dated to 1966 or 1967. I think this is the second of at least 2 label variants for this particular one. Nonetheless, surprisingly got this one cheap. Okay. You know, there are a few albums missing from my collection, like Revolver and Rubber Soul and Help mostly, but we do have at least 2 copies of the White Album, or The Beatles, that's the real name of the album. I mean, everybody calls it the White Album, really. The inside, of course. Green text used here. Now, this is a 1970s reissue that's not numbered. I'd say probably mid-1970s, best guess. Hang on, I should take these out of the sleeve for you to look at the label properly. But yeah, I'd say probably somewhere between 1970 and 1977. I have no idea when these showed up. They don't show up very often. Really good songs in this album. Back in the USSR and Obla Di, Obla Da still put a smile on my face when I'm not listening to modern crap. A lot of bands nowadays really don't know how to make good music, but that's just my opinion though. I don't want anyone to judge me for that. And this is the second record. And of course, side 4. Okay, this is actually the only album that I have 2 copies of, because I also have what I think is a 20th anniversary reissue from about 1987. Sticker here says so. Special limited edition in coloured vinyl. That's right. It's white coloured vinyl. I mean, I'm not going to show the poster or the images of the band. We're just going to show the records. Anyone? You can see white vinyl and on the Parlophone label instead of the Apple label. And the second records, just give us a moment here. Trying to do this with cold hands is not very easy to do. But it's been nearly a week since I did a video, so that's why this one's being done. There we are. That's both the copies of the White Album that I own. Okay, now we move on to Yellow Submarine. Again, the colours are slightly different to what most people would be familiar with. Even that Nothing Is Real is printed in a different colour. The back cover is a little on the identical side, I guess. I think the copy that I have dates to the early 1980s. Again, on the Parlophone black and silver. Yeah. And this version doesn't show up very often either. Original film score on the second side. That's right. Okay, next one here is probably not familiar to those in the UK until more recent times, but this is Hey Jude, that was released here in 1970. Again, the track listing is not in correct sequence on the back. I think this might be a original pressing. Then again, it's a little thin, so it might be slightly later, probably mid-70s. I believe this album is now available on the US albums box set, but I don't think that box set's available anymore. I notice it just says Ballad of John and Yoko, not The Ballad. Don't know if that's a misprint or not. It's probably screwed up somewhere. And we also have Let It Be. Of course, don't know why that stereo indicator is printed there, as it was only ever mixed in stereo. And I think all pressings of the Australian release used the red apple, so there were no reissues with the green apple. I think this is an original pressing. It's a little bit thicker than the Hey Jude, but it's probably might be a little bit later. Again, I'm not 100% certain though. Alright. Absolute pile here. Okay. Next one is another Australian only release. Dated to 1972, I believe. This is the Essential Beatles. This is say this is one of the very first Essential releases. This is a bit on the thicker side, so yeah. Again, apologies if you can't read the track listing. I am trying to keep these clean. They are a bit on the precious side. Pretty interesting choices of some of these songs. Okay. 1973 saw the release of the Beatles' Australian 10th anniversary double album. This essentially compiles both the greatest hits albums. This was a limited edition release that was deleted when the red and blue albums came out later in the year. Not come across very many copies of this. I believe this one did have a 4BK radio station sticker on it, because that's what it was presented by. And of course we have the unique purple and silver EMI Parlophone label that was pretty much only used for this issue of the double album set. Let's pull out the... it's stuck. Excellent. Let's have a better look at the actual sleeve we've got inside here. Hang on. Might be able to pause that and read that. Okay, that's long enough, I think. And of course we've got the track listings. Excellent. Okay, we have a copy of the 1962 to 66 album. This is actually a New Zealand copy of the album, although the sleeve was printed here. Of course we've got the back cover here. I know this is marked at $20. I'm just thinking, was that written when it was originally on sale, or was that a later pricing or something? Anyway, very surprised to find a New Zealand copy of this here in Australia. Hang on, just pull that out of the sleeve, I think. Made by EMI New Zealand Limited. And side 2. Excellent. Replace that there. Pull out the other album. I do have the red inner sleeves as well, but I'm sure you've already seen them. They're exactly the same, pretty much worldwide. So we'll just show the record labels. Again, this is the second album. New Zealand press. Again, slide 4 here. Again, apologies if you can't read it properly. Alright. Getting down the order. There's still a couple more to go. Do have a few others, but I thought I'd just show the more important ones in this video. Okay. Love Songs double album now. And rather simple brown. The track listing's a little faded. I'm sure you may have seen this album before. You've got the picture of the band that's used inside here. And most notably, the albums are pressed in a unique manner. I think this is an original pressing, 1977, dated here. So we have side 1 here. And on the opposite side is side 4. the other record has the album pressed with side 2 here. And side 3. Excellent. Now, just a couple more, I think. And that's it. Bump the iPad. Oh, I'm so clumsy. Okay, here is the Rarities album. Of course, I'm sure you've all seen this a few times. I think this is a slightly later issue. Probably might have been one of the ones that was sold separately from the box set. I think this is an early 80s black and silver, yeah. So this may have potentially been sold separately from the box, but I don't know whether this particular version was there. I do know the US version of the Rarities album also made it out here, but I've not seen a copy of that as of late. Okay, that's just one more to go. This is another Australian compilation. This one's called... Oh no. Well, actually I might leave that one out because that's a bootleg, so I'll leave that out. We're only going to put out look at the official stuff. This is the last one. The Beatles number ones. This I think dates from the early 1980s. I believe this is the only version on any album where you can get the original 1963 stereo mix of I Want to Hold Your Hand. And apparently there's a bit of a wow effect at the very start, which may or may not have been taken from like a master tape or something. Nonetheless, let's pull out the album. I've seen this show up very often. And because it's an Australian compilation, I'm not seeing very many people show this one off on YouTube. And the last one inside is a bonus 3-track EP. That also comes with the album, because they obviously couldn't fit all of the songs on one album. They decided not to make it a double album. Alright, that is it. Although I do have a couple others, including the 1980 Beatles box, but I thought I might possibly show that off in another video. That is it for now. Thank you very much for watching this video. Be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe right now and ring that bell for notifications whenever I'm bothered to do another video. But until next time, this is the Dogger saying have a great day wherever you are in the world. Be sure to stay safe because the damn COVID is driving everybody crazy right now. And we shall see you again.